Okay, everybody. Today's live is all about menopause and hormone replacement therapy. I have got the top person in this field doing this. So I want to just, as everybody's starting to come on, I'm just going to introduce this a little bit more. So this is a very important subject today. It is a life-changing subject. It is a life-saving subject. So as you guys start coming on, Dr. Barbie Taylor is at the forefront of just the educating women on women's health and menopause and hormone replacement therapy. So what I've learned about, as I'm watching her, see if she can come back on, as what I've learned about menopause is it's so much more than just hot flashes and brain fog and insomnia. It really affects our health span. And so, you know, as a gerontologist, I wanted to get the forefront leader of who is giving us this information and telling us the truth, and that is Dr. Barbie Taylor. And so let's see. Oh, yes, she joined. Okay, so let me see if I can invite her back again, and hopefully we've got a better audio this time. So let's invite. Got some good audio because we have got some amazing information here. And if you guys missed it, the winner from last week was the amazing _9 for the White Lightning complex. And make sure that you are inviting your people. Okay. Yes. Okay, let's hear the audio. Can you hear? It's a little bit better. Ooh. It's still a little glitchy, but let's see what we can do. So welcome, Dr. Taylor.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so tell me, why is this information so important for women, and why isn't anybody else telling us?
Well, you have to realize that every single woman is going to become menopausal if she lives long enough, okay? And we are going to live the second half or the second third of our lives as menopausal women. So for us to go through our lives and know nothing about it is completely crazy. It's as certain as death and taxes, and yet it's the most neglected topic on earth, even by women themselves who will spend the second half of their lives in menopause. And so we as a group have to wake up and understand what menopause is all about, because it affects us for a long, long time.
Yes. Yes. You know what's the sad part to me, because I just graduated from USC as a gerontologist, and they're not teaching this in schools.
No.
And not only that, but one of the most highly respected functional medicine doctors that I know, who wrote this amazing book, even says in his book, you know, hormone replacement only for a short period of time and the minimal amount. And I was like, what?
Yeah, well, think about it. We literally are outliving our ovaries. That's what's happening. Other animals don't have menopause. Mother Nature's plan for animals is birth, reproduction, and death. So other animals die. But we are living half of our lives in menopause. So what you have to think about is the fact that, well, if we're outliving our ovaries, it means that our ovaries produced our female hormone estrogen, and we are living the second half of our lives with a hormone deficiency. So what would you do if you outlived your pancreas and didn't have insulin for the second half of your life? What would you do if you outlived your thyroid gland and didn't have thyroid hormone for the rest of your life? So that's what you have to think about in terms of how important is menopause. It is not a blip in time. It is not temporary. It is not about hot flashes. It's like every other hormone deficiency on the planet. They all cause about 20 symptoms that make you feel absolutely horrible. Yeah. And if you don't replace a hormone that is deficient, they all have fatal diseases at the end of the line. All of them.
So tell me about the three big ones, the three big fatal diseases.
Three fatal diseases of estrogen deficiency are heart attack, osteoporosis, and Alzheimer's. And the reason these are the diseases is that estrogen is the hormone that kept your heart arteries soft and supple. When you lose your estrogen, your heart arteries start getting stiffer. Mm-hmm. And the longer you go without estrogen, the harder they get. This is called hardening of the arteries. That's how you get to a heart attack. Every disease is silent until deadly. They all have a long road before they hit you. With your bones, estrogen kept your bones very dense, but without estrogen, your bones go from this to this. And brain is covered with estrogen receptors. It's like parking spots for estrogen. It's where estrogen parks in your brain and acts as a fuel to make your brain function beautifully. Well, one of the symptoms of estrogen, of estrogen deficiency in menopause is that menofog, that forgetfulness, you can't think, you feel cloudy. Well, guess what's happening? Those estrogen receptors are empty, so your brain is running on fumes, and it is shrinking. If you extrapolate that forgetfulness and that menofog over 10, 20 years, you've got brain shrinkage. That's what Alzheimer's is. So this is why diseases of estrogen deficiency are heart attack, osteoporosis, and Alzheimer's. And women don't know this. They think it's just a few hot flashes for a few years and then everything's going to go back to normal. It doesn't work that way.
No. And I think that, tell me a little bit about what's the scare about going on hormone replacement therapy? Because there was that one study, that antiquated study, that everybody is now afraid of breast cancer from this. But so explain that a little bit to us.
One study in 2002 called the Women's Health Initiative. It was a huge study that cost $1 billion. And because it was so expensive and so big, when it was done, everyone treated it like it was the Bible. Well, in medicine, we don't have Bible. It's to govern everything. So this one study was done. They broke every rule of science. They manipulated the data, and the media got a hold of the results. What the media was going to say. And the media promoted HRT as more risky than beneficial for all women, for all indications. And
yeah, I was a little bit
the world, and ever since then, that was go.
I'm getting a little, are you guys hearing her okay? Are
You
you guys hearing Dr. Taylor okay? Okay, are you guys hearing me now? Okay, it was a little glitchy on my side, but basically that antiquated study, which they did with postmenopausal women mostly, and synthetic hormones, they were looking at the age-related diseases with lack of estrogen, and that was the problem.
They did not study women who were entering menopause at typically the age of 50, who have not already lost their estrogen and have not already started on the road to these diseases. Instead, they studied women with an average age of 63. So these are women who had had no estrogen for 10, 15 years. They were already on their way to having these diseases. And so the entire study was completely skewed, and it didn't pertain to the average woman at 50 who is going into menopause and wants to bridge the gap between losing her own estrogen and replacing it. And so the study was very misrepresented, and yet it's still the governing study. When it was promoted by the media, basically all the rules for prescribing HRT changed. They all got turned upside down completely. And now it's very difficult for women to get what they want for HRT for menopause, even when they're great, healthy, young candidates. And the key to success is tailoring. Every woman has to have everything tailored to her to find out what are her benefits, what are her risks, because we aren't a bunch of robots. There's nothing that's right for all of us. We all have to have it tailored.
And I love that about your YouTube channel, about YouTube, because you're not just pushing therapy for everybody. You're pushing education and letting people make their own educated minds. But it's an education that we are so lacking of, that when you finally gather that information, that hormones are responsible, the lack of estrogen, your rate of heart attack, you're one or two people will die of, 50% of us will die of heart attack when our estrogen drops. The bone density, we lose how much per year? I think it was 3 or 4% per year.
2 to 5% in the first 5 years without estrogen per year. And then after that, it's 1% to 2% every single year for the rest of our lives. So this is why 90% of all nursing homes are women who have fractured. Go look at a nursing home. You see it clear as day. And that is what happened to all these women. They did not get this lesson that when you lose your estrogen, you're going to lose bone. It's a mathematical, certain kind of thing. It's not an iffy thing.
It's not an iffy thing. It's so interesting because I feel that if a man, when he hit his 50s, was going to lose 2 to 5% of his bone mass every year, there would be an uproar and things would be done and they would go in for bone scans and nobody's coming up. And that makes me so mad.
Men lost all their testosterone, and they don't. Men never lose all their testosterone, which is why they don't have a menopause. Their testosterone does decrease a little bit and slowly over time, but they never lose it all. But if men had menopause, there would be an ATM, an automatic in every street corner, there in every building, in every home. Men would be able to have all the testosterone they want, and it would be free. It would be public issue number one. I mean, because men would not stand for people telling them that their testosterone is some kind of demon or poison that will kill them. Men would not believe that because they're very logical. But women are emotional, and when they hear that something is dangerous, they react to the fear. They don't stop to go, wait a minute, how can my estrogen be dangerous for me? I walked around with buckets of it for like 35 years. It didn't strike me dead when I had buckets of it. How can I feel so horrible without it and so wonderful with it? See, that's the difference in how we work with information. And because the media has scared women and terrorized them so much about their hormone estrogen, women are afraid to even consider what
are the negative of, what are the risks if somebody was susceptible to breast cancer and things like that? What are the risks of continuing? And I know we've had estrogen our whole lives, along with testosterone and progesterone and DHEA. We've had these our whole lives. But when they naturally dip, what are the risks of replacing them?
Well, first of all, it depends on the woman. Okay, so everything is about the person. Never does it matter in terms of everybody else. But what you have to realize is the information has been distorted. Okay, no one hormone causes breast cancer. In fact, hormones are not even on the list of risk factors for breast cancer. What causes breast cancer is menstrual cycles. The cycle up and down, up and down. And here's why. Our breasts are designed to have 4 phases. The first half of our menstrual cycle, the second half of our menstrual cycle, pregnancy, and breastfeeding. And we were designed to do what all the other animals do. Become reproductive and have pregnancy after pregnancy after pregnancy after pregnancy and then die. So we're not supposed to have a whole lot of menstrual cycles. Oh, but we don't do that. We instead have the first half of our menstrual cycle, the second half of our menstrual cycle, and we abort the other 2 phases. And that is what causes breast cancer, the fact that we abort the cycle of our breasts. It's also what causes ovarian cancer. Both ovarian cancer and breast cancer are entirely related to the number of menstrual cycles you have. You can even calculate it. It's called menstrual life. And so that's what causes breast cancer, and all the risk factors fall in line with that. But somehow people have distorted that, and they've gone and blamed one hormone as the cause. In fact, that's not true at all.
Okay, I have a question that says somebody, and I'm understanding that somebody's saying when I'm speaking, it's getting a little glitchy. So I just want to, there's a question that says, I was on estrogen, she had a hysterectomy, and then went off for a month, and now she's back on. Is it like starting all over now with the benefit?
The benefits continue. She hasn't been off it long enough for it to matter. If a person goes off of it for a long period of time, she starts to developing the 3 diseases. If she starts HRT after that, she'll arrest that development. She's not going to reverse it, but she'll stop. Think of it as aging. Your estrogen was your fountain of youth. As long as estrogen was on board, you aged very slowly on the inside and the outside. When you lose your estrogen, the aging process speeds up, and we see it on the outside. We get wrinkled skin, and our hair starts falling out, and we notice all these things that seem like we're aging overnight. Well, guess what? It's happening on the inside too, to your heart, your brain, and your bones. So if you go for a time without estrogen, you're going to have that aging process accelerate. But if you then start it, it will slow it down again.
Right.
It's not the same thing as reversing everything that has happened. It's just that it will slow it down and it won't continue to be as rapid.
So is there an age where you can't get on hormone replacement therapy? Is it if you're at any age you can start?
Depends on the person. It's never about an age, because we don't all age the same way. You cannot do anything by age. You can't say that any woman who has this or that. Nothing is right for everybody. It all depends on each person in terms of their situation, and it depends on each woman's comfort zone and risk tolerance, because guess what? We don't have the same levels of risk and comfort zones. We all are different. And this is the key to success, knowing all the options, knowing what each one can do and cannot do, and tailoring them to you so that you do for you. That's what my education is all about. And I cover everything: diet, lifestyle, vitamins, minerals, herbs, supplements, hormones, non-hormones. I just teach you everything. But I teach you all the pros and cons, benefits accordingly.
Right. And and I try to tell some of my clients this too, when they're talking about their skin aging, and now all of a sudden, they're dry and their hair's falling out. And I always say, like, think about what's happening inside.
Yeah.
Right? This is just the symptoms of what's happening inside to our artery, heart, and our bones.
Well, the skin and the hair, those are symptoms of estrogen deficiency. I mean, think about it. If you lost your thyroid hormone, you'd have fatigue, you'd gain weight. I mean, those are symptoms of thyroid hormone deficiency. So all hormone deficiencies have a list of symptoms associated with that hormone deficiency. And skin and hair, which you alluded to, are all about estrogen deficiency. And there's 22 symptoms of estrogen deficiency, not just hot flashes. There's 22.
What are some of those other ones?
They're anxiety, heart palpitations, hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, fatigue, forgetfulness, mood swings, irritability, depression, vaginal dryness, skin dryness, hair loss, urinary incontinence, dryness of your vagina, urinary tract infections, low sex drive, weight gain. Most women have no idea. They're running to 22 different doctors thinking that they have 22 different problems, when in fact they have only one problem.
Right. Right.
They're all symptoms of estrogen deficiency in order to recognize them as such, so that you know what the problem really is. If you don't know that the problem is really estrogen, you're never going to fix it.
Yeah. We're not getting to the source of the problem, trying to mask everything up. You keep your side of it. Yeah. So when we're basically masking the stuff, trying to get through the hot flashes, as opposed to really treating the extending our health span.
Exactly. And I get so many women who are really health nuts, and they have perfect diets, and they work out beautifully and have great bodies, and they can't understand why they come to me with horrible bone loss. And they're like, but I don't get it. I do everything right. And I go, well, yeah, you do everything right, but you forgot. Food is food. Exercise is exercise, and a hormone is a hormone, and they don't do each other's jobs. And when you try to make them do each other's jobs, it's not going to work out well. So you have to just know what's going on and understand the underlying, mechanism of action. What's the pathology? What is really happening here? You cannot fix a hormone deficiency with anything but the hormone. You can do some things to compensate, but it's not going to do the same thing as the actual hormone.
So you can be on hormones then for the life.
Well, it depends on the woman. Some people want them for life, some people don't. But the question is this: what's going to happen if you stop? What's going to happen if you stop taking your insulin? You see, that's the science. The science doesn't change because of fear. Okay, if you're an insulin-dependent diabetic and you stop taking your insulin, what's going to happen? You're going to start on the road to the diseases. Well, that's the basic science of hormone deficiencies, whether you like it or not. Okay, but you can always do whatever you want, and that's what I teach. You can do whatever you want. The key is to know what each option can do and cannot do, so that you don't end up with surprises that you thought you were avoiding. If you know the science and you understand how it works, you can choose anything you want.
And that's what I love about you. You give so much information that allows people to make their own decisions. I have somebody says, please discuss dosage. Doctors want to start so low. So is there an optimal dose to start?
Well, the way it works is this. Every kind of pharmaceutical hormone has a lowest dosage that is capable of preventing heart attack, osteoporosis. If you take a dosage lower than that, then you're not accomplishing that goal, period. You may be getting rid of your hot flashes and some symptoms, but you're not preventing the diseases, okay? And in my videos and in all my educational resources, I give you the list of all the different kinds of estrogen with that lowest dosage associated so that you know what it is. But that lowest dosage does not mean it's enough for you. It means that lower than that, it's impossible. But you don't know what's right for you personally unless you do some tailoring and let your body tell you. You see, your body's opinion is the only one that matters. It doesn't matter what you think. You know, we live in a world where we hear this and we listen to that and we believe this and we prefer this and that, all this marketing, advertising, sound bites, hype, scare tactics. We've got a lot in our heads. The problem is your body doesn't care what you think. You know, I always say, do you think my hair cares if I've heard that straight hair is better and read thousands of studies to prove it? And the answer is, my hair doesn't care what I think. And so this is how menopause management is. Your body does talk to you, and your body will be a great guide. But most people don't listen to their bodies. We're busy listening to Dr. Google and our marketing and advertising and hype and scare tactics. We're listening to the wrong things instead of letting our body be our guide. And you know, your body won't lie. Your body will tell you what's happening to it. And if you learn to read it, my students that I'm the body, because you have to understand that you have to interpret what your body is trying to tell you if you want to get it right. And if you try to fix an estrogen problem with progesterone and testosterone, that's not going to work. You have to know which hormone causes which things in order to fix it. And so I teach all of that, okay, so that you target the right things for the right reasons within.
Great. And I know that you've got one-on-one consultations. I'm definitely signing up. And you have a big book of everything that will explain about what's going on with hormones. But I do have somebody that says how to search for a gynecologist that has taken the time to educate themselves on menopause. Who do we look for that specializes in menopause?
Problem. There is no education on menopause in medical school at all. It doesn't exist. And in a 4-year OB-GYN residency, only 1% of the time is on menopause. So any woman who has a consultation with me automatically has the problem of knowing 90% more than most doctors. I warn them all. I say, your new problem is you now know 90% more than most doctors. I give you interview techniques for finding the doctor that is right for you, because all that matters is knowing how you want to manage your menopause, and all that you need to do is find someone who will help you manage your menopause your way instead of your menopause their way. So some people call themselves menopause specialists, but they don't know anything about menopause. They're just great marketers. They know how to sell stuff. They know how to make you feel like you have to do it their way, but they don't know anything about menopause. So I tell you how to avoid that. I teach you how to find someone who is going to do what you want. Because if you get the education from me, you can decide what you want, because you have an education. I give you a whole education. So if you have that, you can go and find someone who will work with you instead of against you. But you have to know what you have to know the facts first. You can't be doing this based on some, you know, hype that you heard in a soundbite somewhere. A real education is very powerful. Sound bites are not.
Yeah. And we're so just bombarded with marketing, and most of the marketing is just to cover up symptoms. So our bone loss keeps getting worse. Our risk of heart attack keeps going up. Our brain keeps shrinking, and we're just masking it because marketing is saying just get rid of your hot flashes and fight it through. And that's where our health just takes a nosedive.
Never killed anybody, but heart attacks have killed many. And that's the bottom line. And if you're focusing on the wrong thing, you're going to end up very surprised down the line. It's critical that women learn. You know, I'm on a mission. I want all women to get this education in their 20s. Can you imagine a world in which all women got this education in their 20s and knew all of this going forward, and they could do whatever they want, and they'd know menopause when it came around? Most women don't know what menopause is when it hits them over the head like a ton of bricks and ruins their job and their marriage and everything. They have no idea what's going on. I want all women to know about this before they need it, because when you wait till the last minute, it's a lot to learn when you're scrambling and you're already all uncomfortable and your brain's foggy and you don't have time. I mean, women deserve to know all of this.
Yes. Somebody just said, thank you, Dr. Taylor, for the recommendation to get a bone density scan 49. And I'm shocked to learn that I now have osteopenia in my hips, and now they're on HRT.
Yeah. Well, that has happened. I mean, I cannot tell you the numbers of women who come with that same young. She's young, you see. And when you find out about stuff like this when you're young, you can do something about it. But the medical system is not a healthcare system. It's not a wellness system. It's not designed to spend money on you before you're broken. So the guidelines are not going to save you. The guidelines are going to say, we're going to wait until you're broken to tell you to get any tests, because they don't want to spend the money until they have to. So the guidelines are not in your favor. They are population-wide, and they are based on money. Think of a big table around which are sitting statisticians, epidemiologists, medical people, and insurance companies and policymakers. And on the table, there's a great big pile of money. And they're saying, how should we spend this money? Well, you know, if we spend the money on everybody before they have a problem, we're going to waste all our money and get nothing out of it. But hey, if we wait until they're all a bunch of train wrecks, then we'll spend the money, and then we'll have to put money back into the system. That is how guidelines work. They're always about the whole population, and they are always about money. That's what they're supposed to be. But when doctors follow the guidelines to a T instead of tailoring everything to you, it's a problem, because they're not supposed to be used on an individual level. Problem is, everybody uses them as an individual thing, and that's not the way they should be utilized.
So do you recommend, because there's, you know, these people that love for you to get labs, they love blood work, they love for you to try to test and see where your hormone levels are. Do you recommend people in their 30s, or at what age should you get like a baseline of where your hormones optimally should be for you?
It makes no sense to do that.
Okay.
You are in your reproductive life, your hormones are on a roller coaster all the time. All the time. You are one big roller coaster. That's why you have your moods and your bloating and your this and that. When you go through menopause, here's what happens. Those hormones, which used to be here, eventually go to zero. It just takes a while. And the whole time that you're trying to go to zero, it's complete chaos, absolute chaos. If you drew your labs, they'd be like this if you do them every day. And every lab is a snapshot in time. So you're giving yourself one single piece of data, but it's not accurate over the course. Your life is the roller coaster, and you're looking at one single lab. Did you have to get labs when you went through puberty?
Right.
It makes no more sense now than it did then. It's totally illogical. And if you use a provider who uses labs, I guarantee you they're going to look at the labs and not listen to you. You're going to say, oh, but I'm still miserable and I can't sleep and my vagina's on fire. And they're going to go, but you're right where I want you. You're like, don't use someone who's using labs. They're making a fortune off the labs. That's marketing, but it doesn't make any sense for what menopause really is. You know you're going to go to the land of zero hormones, and if you're already there, why are you measuring a hormone that is zero? If it's zero, what are you looking range, it's 0. Okay, so it doesn't make sense. But if your body's talking to you and telling you what's going on, you don't need a lab. It's not like thyroid
So it's
hormone
just
always
about,
has a normal range.
yeah. So it's about getting a doctor to listen to you and help you to feel like you did before you went through menopause. Wow.
You know what? It's very simple. Here's how simple your body makes it. If your body has enough estrogen, you should have 0 symptoms of estrogen deficiency. Doesn't that make sense? And if your body has enough estrogen, all your cardiac lipids like cholesterol and triglycerides should be stable. And if you have enough estrogen, you should not be losing any bone. Duh, these are all the very same things that estrogen used to do for you. It's perfectly just easy and commonsensical if you'll just listen to your body and use your cholesterol studies and your bone density test. But if you're busy listening to other people tell you what you need to do, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. So at what age do you recommend people go in for a bone test?
Well, I recommend you go to that bone density test when you start losing your estrogen. So when you become perimenopausal and when you start seeing all these symptoms of estrogen deficiency and you're like, oh, whoa, something's wrong. Get a bone density test. I mean, you need to know where you are on the scale in order to know whether or not you need to be concerned at all. But if you don't get it then, you're not, it could be too late. You know, these diseases are silent until deadly. If you meet a woman who has fractured her spine or her hip from estrogen loss, and if you say to a woman, how did you fracture your spine? She's going to say, I don't know. I coughed. I sneezed. If you ask a woman, how did you fracture your hip? They go, I don't know. I was standing there doing nothing and my hip cracked. These are called fragility fractures because they don't require any trauma. This is why I teach you, because there are no symptoms, you'll never know this is happening, and you will end up with the fracture that cripples you for the rest of your life because they don't heal. And see, there's no reason for women to fall prey to this. No woman has to fall prey to this. But you have to learn this stuff in order to avoid it, because the medical system's not going to do it for you.
No. And so many, I'm looking at the comments, so many people are saying that the doctor is wanting to put them on the smallest, let's just try this, the smallest amount. And the smallest amount is not what our bodies have been used to. And so it's not going to protect us from Alzheimer's.
That is something that came about after the WHI, and the mantra became lowest dosage, shortest time. Now, before the WHI, women took HRT, they took an adequate dosage to prevent the diseases, and they took it for the rest of their lives, just like you would insulin or thyroid hormone. But when that study came out, suddenly it was lowest dosage, shortest time. Have you ever heard an insulin-dependent diabetic say, oh, I'm going to take the lowest dosage of insulin for... Well, see, you laugh at that, but see, it's the same thing. Look, if you want the common sense and logic, substitute the word insulin for the word estrogen in every sentence you utter and see how logical it sounds. If it doesn't sound logical with the word insulin, then it is not logical for the word estrogen. It's really that simple.
Wow.
Your body doesn't produce poisons. Your body doesn't produce a hormone that's going to kill you. You don't hear men saying their testosterone is going to kill them. You don't hear anyone saying insulin's going to kill them. So I teach you the logic, and you can do with it whatever you please, but at least you have the logic. At least you can connect dots and go, well, here's what makes sense. And woman after woman always says to me, gosh, it all makes such sense. And I said, well, that's because the truth makes sense. I mean, when you get a real education and the whole story, it all makes sense. Of course it makes sense.
It really does. It really does. And somebody said, I'm having so many symptoms. My doctor never mentioned menopause and had me take all kinds of autoimmune blood.
That's typical. They don't bring up the conversation either because they don't have time or they don't really want to go there. You see, what you have to understand about the position of a physician is this. When the WHI came out and all the women started running around saying, you, and if your doctor gives you HRT, your doctor's trying to kill you, doctors went, oh my God, we don't want to get sued. And they decided not to give it. So what happened is they are now doing what is in their legal best interest instead of what is in your medical best interest. I have a medical degree and a law degree. I can tell you precisely what is going on. That is the problem. So now they're doing what's best for them, and they're saying, well, they don't have to give it to you because the guidelines got changed. The guidelines literally say don't give HRT for anything but severe symptoms of menopause, and only give the lowest dosage for the shortest time. That's what they're doing. But that's not in your best interest. No. And when they know nothing but what the guidelines tell them, because they have no education on menopause, they're just following the guidelines.
Yeah. And even people that I completely respect that were speakers at my school, it's still smallest dose, shortest period of time. It's crazy talk.
Students, I said, when they say that to the doctor, I said, you should look at your doctor and go, wow, really? Is it to do with insulin? Oh, wow, I didn't know. I just say it because the doctor will look at you like, well, they've never thought about it. They've never thought about it. They're just following a bunch of rules, and they've never given it any thought. And if you say to them, oh, that's interesting, I thought like diabetics took their insulin forever. Do they stop too? You don't want to be confrontational, but that question will really get you a lot of mileage in terms of they'll go, they will not have an answer for you.
Well, we have to be proactive.
Absolutely.
Because nobody's taking care of health. We need to be proactive. So if somebody says, I want to try in a low dose, I haven't been on a low dose for the first 50 years of my life. Why would I be on a low dose now?
Right. That's exactly right. You walked around with a bucket of estrogen for 35 or 40 years. When you go through perimenopause, the bucket becomes a water bottle. Birth control pills give you a great big glass full of estrogen. All HRT is nothing but drops. About taking too much, and I'm like, good Lord, you need to worry about getting enough, not getting too much. It's very difficult to get too much when you have buckets of it. So this is the problem. If you're worried about the wrong things, you're going to get it wrong. Women worry more about progesterone than estrogen. They're worried about getting too much estrogen instead of too little. They're worried about hot flashes instead of heart attacks. Okay, you got to get this right. You're worried about, when you worry about the wrong things, you're not going to succeed very well. And so, I teach all the facts so that you know.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like after starting you always say on your YouTube channel to start from the beginning, because you really want to learn. Start from the beginning of video number 1. I didn't listen. I'm sorry. I skipped around a little bit, but I am now starting again on video number 1 because what I've realized is I have been half-assing my hormone replacement therapy. And so I'm treating the symptoms, and I'm telling clients, if you're having symptoms, you don't have hormones, but there are so many symptoms that I wasn't realizing were actual symptoms of subpar levels of estrogen. And I've been treating those symptoms opposed to treating my brain and my heart and my bones. And so you have helped me to rethink the whole hormone replacement therapy in terms of longevity and in terms of that health span. And so life changing. I urge everybody to go and check out Menopause Taker's YouTube channel because it is a Menopause University and we are all going through it. Do not want to miss any of that. I have one question I want to tell you about. The Romanian girl 10 said, which is more important on a DEXA, Z or T score? My DEXA scan showed normal Z score, but a few years ago they measured the T score, which showed osteopenia.
Exactly. The only score that matters is the T score, and here's why. The T score compares your bone density now to the best it ever was. Okay, so you're comparing yourself to the very best when you were like age 25 to 30. The Z score compares you to other women of your own ethnicity and age, all of whom have lost their estrogen and they're losing bone like crazy. Ignore the Z score because it means you do not want to be like all the other women because they're all ending up in nursing homes. Okay, the Z score is irrelevant. When your doctor tells you the Z score, you need to say no, 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 no. And a lot of them, here's what doctors will do. They'll call you and say, oh, your T score was a little bit low. No, your Z score is fine, honey. Just keep doing what you're doing. Okay, Wrong, 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 wrong. You have been misled. I tell women, you must upload your entire bone density test for me to interpret, because they all have heard, oh, you're normal. And I tell them, well, no, that's not really the whole story. And when they find out what the truth is, they are furious. But it's like they just told you what sounded good, and they just decided to let it ride until it becomes a big problem. But these fractures don't heal. Once you fracture, it's over.
And not but the fall and when you get older, falls are like become, once you make it past the heart attacks, you made it past, you're in your 80s, falls are the number one killers because of bone density and the inability to heal after that. So if you think that your bone density is not a problem, fast forward 20 years and that's what's downfall. So it's super important.
Absolutely right. The bone loss is what I see in the vast majority of women. And sadly, it doesn't require a fall. You can fracture without even knowing how you did it, which is this is the scary part. And when you don't have any idea that at the root of the problem is estrogen deficiency, we're all sitting ducks for this. Every woman is a sitting duck. And that's the one that bothers me the most, because quite literally, it's the healthiest women who fall prey to that. I mean, they really are doing everything they can to avoid it, and yet they still fall prey to it.
Yeah. And I think that's why I have you on this live. I hope that we can continue this conversation. There's a lot of questions that we're not going to be able to get to. We have about 10 minutes left, and I'm going to try to field some of the questions for you. But that's the part that is maddening to me, a health coach and a healthy aging coach and a gerontologist, is we think we're doing something healthy.
Right.
We're following all the guidelines. We're listening to our doctors. We're going in, we're doing our tests, and yet we're not doing what we really need to do to expand that health span. Maddening. Okay, I have a question that says doctors will not, or a comment, doctors will not prescribe testosterone unless you see a private menopause specialist. What's the role of testosterone in all of this? Are testosterone dips as well?
Well, you cannot know whether or not you need testosterone until you get estrogen right. Again, I always say estrogen is mama bear's hormone. Progesterone is baby bear's hormone. The word pro means in support of. Gest is for gestation or pregnancy. Own is hormone. Progesterone is the hormone in support of pregnancy. The only reason mama bear produces progesterone is to protect baby bear in utero. So progesterone is baby bear's hormone, and testosterone is papa bear's hormone. If you're mama bear, which we all are, all women are, you've got to get your estrogen right before you go playing around with, when you're trying to solve the problem with the wrong hormone, it's not going to work. So unless you've got your estrogen right and zero symptoms of estrogen deficiency, you have no business addressing testosterone yet. Once you do have zero symptoms of estrogen deficiency, that's when we address, well, do you need to consider testosterone? Because you can't bombard your body with a bunch of different hormones and expect to ferret out which one's doing which. You can only study one thing at a time and figure it out. Well, exactly, and that's what all these quotes. That's what the menopause specialists do. They give you everything at once. There is no way to figure anything out when you do that. In science, is something called isolation. And it means that you can only study one thing at a time. It's one of the big mistakes of the WHI study. Okay? I mean, you cannot assess anything when you've confounded all your variables by having too many of them. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And this is what happened to me. I started on estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. And I feel like well, first of all, these are compounded.
Exactly. They aren't capable of protecting your heart rate and bones at all. So you might fix some of your symptoms, but nothing in the compounding world is capable of preventing the diseases. I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. Same thing with herbs, vitamins, minerals. Nothing else but pharmaceutical estrogen is capable of all three of those goals, but pharmaceutical estrogen. And I always say, start with your goals. I say begin with the end in mind. First, decide what you want to accomplish, and then make your decisions and choices about how to do it. But if you don't start with your goals, you're going to adopt a product focus where, oh, you heard about this and your girlfriend said that and so uses that. Okay, that's a definite failure right there. That's called marketing and advertising. You have to know what you want to accomplish. You have to know what each option can and cannot accomplish. And then you have to tailor it all to you to find out what's best for you. That is the only way you will end up where you want to be 50 years from now.
So these are treating my in the three big diseases caused by insufficient estrogen. So I'm going to start from the beginning, but that leads me to a question in terms of there's a lot of different options out there, pellets and patches and compounded stuff. I kind of know what your answer is, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What do you feel is like the best option in terms of getting that estrogen in your system to protect three things?
There's no such thing as the word best in medicine. That's a marketing word. If we were robots and we were all alike, there'd be something that's best for all of us, but there's no such thing. So this is the journey for each woman. We all have to do a trial and error process of finding what is best for us. Every single woman has to do this, and not only once, because if you're going to be journeying through menopause over years, you aren't going to stay the same. So your needs are going to change. And so every woman has to do trial and error and find what is right for her at various stages of her menopause. Nobody else can tell you what's better, worse, right, wrong, good, bad, or best. You shouldn't ever ask anybody, because how does anybody else know what's right for you? I mean, think about it. When you ask someone else what's right, doesn't it sound odd? I mean, why would you ask someone else what's right for you? But that's what we do nowadays. Everyone's asking someone else, and they're asking people who know nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, there's not a quick fix here. There's not a quick answer. But, you know, it's what people want. People want magic. The advertising industry promises magic all the time. You know, they have those commercials. It worked for me, so it'll work for you. Well, that's not true. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Every woman is different. We're all unique, and no two women are alike, and so we all have to find what is right for us. And that's the only way anyone gets it right. And we should not be telling each other what to do. And you don't have to justify what you do to anybody. It's your menopause, your way. The key is to know what you're doing from a real education and not fall to some scam that can't accomplish your goal.
Right. And there's not a product out there that's marketed that's going to accomplish your goals. So if you're sharing, you know, products with friends, it's not going to protect your heart and your brain and your bones.
Look,
okay.
You may think
I'm going to see if we have.
Sounds wonderful. You know, you may think something sounds great, and you may have done all kinds of research. You may think, and your body may just say, "Sorry, sister, I don't like it at all." You see, that's how it works. This is why you have to do the trial and error and find out what your body thinks. Because
I have a question that says, do you need to change if your period resumes after your last period 3 years prior to starting? So I think somebody has started something and then their period resumed.
That requires tailoring. It requires putting everything into perspective and tailoring it to the individual. Almost everything requires tailoring. I get lots and lots of questions. And it's always a matter of, we need to tailor this. We need a constant. We've got to get all of your information and paint the picture of what's going on in your life. That's what I do in consultations.
Yeah. So another question is, what about perimenopause? Should we test our hormones? Can you briefly describe perimenopause?
No, perimenopause, it makes even less sense, because that's where your hormones are like this. If you check them every day, you'd be shocked. I mean, think about when you were going through puberty, you know how you were like all over the place, roller coastering? Okay. Yeah. And parents will tell you were emotional and you were up and down and on and on and on. You were all over the place. Well, guess what? That's perimenopause. At perimenopause, you literally are a geriatric teenager. Okay. You're just a complete, your hormones are all over the place and you're just a geriatric teenager. So the hormone levels in a lab, serum hormone levels, don't tell you anything. If you got them every hour of every day for like 2 months, then you'd see the pattern. You'd probably be shocked and go, God, that's worthless.
Yeah.
Then you'd see what I'm talking
I have somebody else that said I never had high cholesterol until I went into menopause. I felt somehow it was related to menopause. My hormone doctor said no, it's just part of aging.
It is. This is how you get from this to this to this. It all starts with rising cholesterol levels. There's a road. The road starts with your cholesterol getting higher and higher and higher. And the next thing you know, bam, you have the heart attack. But it's like 5-10 years down the line. But it all starts with rising cholesterol. It's absolutely 100% related. That is exactly how your cholesterol starts rising. That's one of the ways your body's talking to you. That's one you're supposed to look at to say, oh my goodness, my body's trying to tell me I don't have enough estrogen. If you did, your lipids would be stable.
Okay, so I have some. So if we have a consultation with you, because you do one-on-one consultations, and when I put this on the feed afterward, missed the first part of it because remember we had to get off because of the connection. We still have a little schedule connection on the side, I think. But I will post the whole thing to my feed, and I will put all of your contacts down below, Dr. Taylor, in terms of how can they do a one-on-one consultation. But the question is, so we have a consultation with you. How is it going? How am I going to get my hormones prescribed if I live in a different country? Who will write my prescription?
You're going to find a doctor who will give you what you want. I will school you and teach you exactly how to go about doing that. I do all of them online. I do them with women all over the world, and the standards and circumstances are different everywhere. But you will know exactly how to go about getting what you want and how to find the kind of doctor you want. But that's part of the education, and I will tailor that to where you live and to your circumstances too, because those things matter. I mean, there are women who are in situations where they need to know what are their options. Yeah. Sometimes you have to go outside your neighborhood to get to what you want. And the question is it worth it to you? I mean, it's the second half of your life. Is it worth driving down the street or getting on a plane or whatever? Some women have to do that. But it's all a matter of your particular circumstance. So those are the things I absolutely do in every consultation.
Yeah. Well, my goals now are, live as long as I can, as healthy as I can. So I have to, it's not just about getting rid of hot flashes and having young looking skin. Like my bones, my heart disease runs in my family, Alzheimer's in my family. So I step back and reevaluate exactly what my goals are for my hormones. And that's where you are going to come in. I will be setting my consultation for this, but we're at 12 o'clock now. We have to run off of here. I apologize to everybody for my microphone or whatever is going on, but I would love you to come back. We'll continue this discussion because I know that we've got so many more questions. So everybody say thank you and goodbye to Dr. Barbie Taylor. You have been just a wealth of information, and I thank you, and my body thanks you from the bottom of my heart, which hopefully now will be protected with a new level of estrogen. Thank you so much, and I'll see everybody next week, same time, Sunday at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.